Welcome back, everybody, to the ND and Free podcast, brought to you by the ND and Free community. We are a worldwide community of NDers who are on a mission to free ourselves of the shame we feel, free from the burden of trying to fit in, and free from the burnout caused from not honoring our needs. Join us each week as we talk all things neurodivergence, including ADHD, autism, ADHD, dyslexia, dyspraxia, and more. From our one-to-one interviews on our ND Free Thrive Guide show to our flagship ND and Free show, we hope these conversations help fellow NDers across the world to honor their truth. Together, we can move towards a world where we can thrive in a way that best serves our neurotype and supports our nervous system. We are ND and Free. Guys, I haven't recorded for 7 weeks, which is why I was messing up that intro a little bit, and I've missed it so much. But what a way to kickstart 2026, essentially season 2, with a returning guest. Today, we have Leah Carroll joining us. Leah is an ADHD Life and Mindset Coach and neurodiversity trainer who helps overwhelmed adult ADHD adults and the organizations they work in move beyond survival mode. Through one-to-one coaching, group programs, and workplace trainings, she blends lived experience, executive function know-how, and nervous system aware strategies to help people stop restarting every week and start building ways of living and working in a way that actually fits their brains. Leah is originally from the US and now lives in Germany, working with clients and companies across the UK, Europe, and beyond. Welcome back, Leah. Sorry, I'm a bit rusty, but we're going to have an amazing chat today. How are you doing? How are you feeling about 2026?
I am good. Thank you so much for having me back. This is so exciting to be a return guest. 2026 is, I don't know, for some reason that it doesn't feel right rolling off the tongue yet. 2026, it'll get there, I'm sure. So yeah, it's always, I'm not necessarily one of those like new year, new me, new you kind of people. I'm very much in the mindset of like, we're still in the dead of winter and this is time for some seed planting, not some like, guns ablazing. But I do always love an excuse for let's take a minute for planning and prioritizing, future planning, all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about 2026. There's a lot of stuff on the horizon that I'm doing that's happening within the neurodivergent community, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited for a new year, new opportunities, new people. It's great.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? I think sometimes it's better just to have the same, whatever word you want to use, resolution or not. I'm just saying, just be more compassionate to myself, because I notice I don't do that enough, especially towards the end of the year. Just have the same one, and then that way you're more likely to probably to integrate it, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting one because we, in our last episode, it was episode 43, everybody. Check the link in the description of this podcast. You'll be able to check it out. So we're talking about working with the mind and our thoughts. And it's in the top 5 most downloaded episodes of the podcast's history. So congrats on that. Very, very popular. But it's interesting because we're talking about working with the mind and our thoughts and coming into this kind of, into this new year period. It's so easy to just be getting attached to those thoughts, really. I'm going to do this. This is the thought that I'm going to do. This is what I'm setting out. But it has to be a felt sense, doesn't it? It has to be felt in your body. It has to mean something and be part of your authentic values and things like that, isn't it? Words aren't enough. It actually has to be driven from some deeper level, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And I think that that's where things can get a little bit tricky, at least in the past. And to be quite honest, still sometimes I have a hard time pinpointing what is that? What are the values that I'm really holding strong? And how can I use my values to help inform my decisions? And sometimes that can get a little bit murky, and it takes really hitting that pause button, which for a lot of, ADHDers, which is where I really spend most of my time is with ADHDers, that pause button is hard to find. And even harder sometimes to press, and even harder yet to realize that we haven't pressed it. And so I think that getting kind of intentional and diving into some of that self-awareness of what are my intentions, what does it mean to do things on purpose, that kind of stuff, it can be really beneficial to take that small amount of time up front and then see how that can allow you to grow long term. But again, future planning, looking back, self-reflection, those are some of the executive functions that we struggle with. So it's no surprise that that takes a little bit more effort and capacity for us to really, sit with and do something with.
Yeah, it's so true. And like segueing into what the topic is today, which fits really, really nicely, is knowing when to reach out and ask for help as well. We go into the year and it's normally like it's a solo thing, isn't it? I'm going to do this now or do this now. It's like, but we may need to actually join a community that's involved in that goal. So join a fitness group or something online. It's finding ways to be accountable, body doubling, as India's like to do, and just finding our way through community. So nice segue for me there. I still got it. But before we do that, give us some context for the episode. So this is more about you than anything. So people can find out more about your story in depth in the previous episode. So just let us know neurotype wise, how that looks for you, and how that fits into your work.
Yep. So I am diagnosed ADHD inattentive. I think probably when I was younger, I didn't get diagnosed until I was late 20s. So I think when I was younger, if you would ask my mom, I was definitely more in the combined camp. But as I got older, the hyperactivity subsided physically and went more mental. So my brain is, squirrels on trampolines. But outwards, I just look like I'm looking out the window. And I know a lot of people can relate to that. So yeah, late diagnosed ADHDer, spent years, asking myself why I did not get a manual and everybody else did to this thing called life. Why does everything feel so hard all the time? And again, I still have moments like that. Even though I am a coach and I work with hundreds of ADHDers, I have worked with hundreds of ADHDers over the last 4 years, still struggle with some of these things because I still have ADHD. So, so I take a lot of, neuroscience, lived experience, and then professional training and take all of that into my coaching. And it is mostly the school of hard knocks and lived experience. A lot of my coaching is from what I have experienced and then what I have gained through working with clients, working with one-on-one, working with small groups, working with big groups. You learn so much from the people that you work with versus kind of in isolation. So I definitely don't position myself as like fixed and teaching others. I'm learning with my clients on a daily basis, which I think is a really important skill for any of us, but especially in this kind of environment of always with that student mentality. I am definitely here to help you and support you with what I have learned through my adventures and experiences and struggles. But I am also very much willing and hoping to learn from the people that I work with. So, really looking at the big belief here is that ADHD is not a character flaw. It is a regulation and executive function difference. And knowing that and being able to talk to people and give language to these things is a really big part of my coaching and one of the things that I value the most.
Yeah, thank you so much. I love the fact that you kind of have set up in a way that people can tap into what feels most comfortable, whether it be groups or one-to-one, and now moving to the corporate space, which is going to be amazing for you this year, to see actually like in real time the impact it's going to have on the employee at the heart of it all and their productivity, but also how it helps their company in the process too, because there's a lot of NDers out there who are completely unsupported in the workplace in many ways. And that's why there's so much unemployment, especially in the autistic world as well. It's very high and it's kind of devastating, really.
Yeah, I keep coming across, I'm American. I live in Germany. Most of my clients are in the UK. And I would say, especially for a time, it's probably gotten a little bit better. Probably about 50% of my clientele from the UK were signed off from work because of overwhelm, burnout, anxiety, depression, some kind of mental struggle that was not being dealt with. And even then, they've been signed off from work. And so that's great, right? They're having a time to like let their nervous system breathe, but there's still no support. It's like, sweet, go home, get your shit sorted, come back. And while that can be really helpful, if you don't know what to do while you're sat by yourself and you don't know how to help yourself, what's the point? Right? And so that's what I kept seeing over and over and over and over were, people in all walks of employment, from CEOs to surgeons to entry level to middle management, exhausted and burnt out because either their higher ups don't understand how to work with neurodivergence, or they themselves as managers and higher ups don't understand how to work with neurodivergent members of staff. And so that is where I've definitely seen a bit of a gap in the market of people really need help when it comes to, we spend at least 40 hours a week, most people, within our place of employment. It needs to be a safe space, as safe as it can be. And I really want to come in and help people understand what that looks like and how we can all work together to make this a better place to work, a better place to socialize, a better place to have community, and get shit done and feel accomplished and feel good about what we do for that much of our lives. It's a really big section of our lives, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. That's a lot of time. And I want people to be happy in those spaces.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. And it kind of makes me think about, being able to advocate for ourselves. That's the kind of one of the hardest parts, I think, in the workplace is knowing, number one, the language. So for me, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know, I kind of knew much about neurodivergence, but I knew a hell of a lot about trauma, the nervous system, body behavioral theory, somatic work. So I was able to go in there and say, I've been diagnosed with this, but watching how little, why would they know? That the whole management team, the higher ups, they don't know anything about it. All they know is that in the corner of the online social media thing within the company, there's like this little bit where neurodivergent people can hang out. And that was kind of about it, really. And how can we ask for adjustments, things like that. And I think it's self-advocacy comes from understanding how the body and brain work. So, where are you going to learn that? And also being supported in the moment when there's no one there to support you by your side. So I've been in it. I'm in work and I can see it unfolding. So I just wanted to acknowledge that too, is that this self-advocacy, actually, sometimes we need help with that, how to speak up, use the right wording, how to stand our ground. These are skills which, let's be honest, a lot of MDs, we don't have it because we were just punched down our whole childhood, stop behaving that way. And somehow now, as an adult, we're supposed to say, no, I know who I am. You better make adjustments. So it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. It is definitely tricky. And like you said, knowing what you are, quote unquote, allowed to ask for. People don't know, like, well, I can't ask for anything. My colleague over here is not asking for anything and they're doing a great job. And so there's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of so many things, so many emotions that come up with neurodivergence in the workplace. Frustration, all of these things. So I do think it's really important to start putting in the work to bridge that gap.
My God, we've got a whole topic here for episode 3. So guys, stay tuned. We'll be back. We'll be talking about, because I'm very passionate about this, because I'm seeing the real dark side of it where I am, but also the good as well. Seeing both.
Yeah.
So lots of lived experience I can share. But I'm going to stop because we need to focus on today's show. So today we are talking about the power of community groups, learning about ourselves as part of a collective, something that Ending Free is moving into. So people probably seeing on social media, Ending Free's become a community movement, a social movement. We want to get as many NDers involved in spreading the message about us being ND free, free of shame, free of the burden, free of the burnout. That is what Ending Free is all about. You are the perfect first guest for series 2, because that's what we're talking about today, because it can be hard to sustain friendships, to understand the dynamics of other people's behavior. I see this a lot in the autistic community, is trying to break down why people are doing what they're doing and needing a lot of time and space to process conversations we've just had. So knowing how to build a life where we have our beautiful people around us, but also honoring that we need time of solitude as well. So let's jump straight in. So what do you think are the key benefits of coaching and therapy when it comes to being part of a group. So people are like, oh, maybe, it's cheaper if I just go in a group, but they're not. They need to really think about how the two things look. So what do you think are the key benefits of that collective dynamic when it comes to coaching? I know a lot of stuff you're going to say is going to be obvious to me, but let's tell everybody at home why the collective actually is quite a powerful tool for coaching.
Yeah. I love that you're calling it the collective, because that is the name of my group, is the ADHD Academy Collective. So yeah, it is really about, there's so many things that go into the benefits of group coaching, and you hit on it. The price is one. Let's be honest, right? Like, times are crazy, finances are wild. It is more, cost effective, or, whatever we want to say, less expensive to do some of these more community driven group coaching programs. But that is such the tip of the iceberg as far as what you can get from being part of a community of fellow neurodivergent humans. So first and foremost, I think it really helps to normalize the experience. You come to this place of like, oh, it's not just me, losing my keys and spiraling at WhatsApp and Slack. Other people are also experiencing this. And while we know that, right, like, we know that we are not the only ADHD, ADHD, dyslexic. We know that we're not the only ones. We know that we're not on this island by ourselves. But sometimes, depending on our environment, depending on our surroundings, it can very much feel that way. I've talked to so many people in discovery calls or in coaching calls that say, I've never been able to talk to anybody about this. Nobody's ever been able to understand it without me having to explain myself. And that right there reduces shame, reduces self-blame. It helps build, like we were talking about, build that language to explain our experiences, especially when you can have a little bit of a back and forth. And you say, I don't know, I feel this way and it feels too much and I don't know how to explain it. And then somebody can say, oh, well, that's what's possibly known as RSD. Or, oh yeah, that's because of the executive function of time blindness. What? And people will come to me and be like, never heard that. Never heard the word time blindness. What are you talking about? And so being able to, like I said, give that language and give people those aha moments of, oh my gosh, that's what it is. I'm not just a failure of an adult. It is an actual neurodivergence, right? It's also a really great place, and this is using a little bit of, not jargon so much, but a little bit of coaching language, I guess, co-regulation. So ADHD is highly about, like I said a minute ago, it really is a regulation difference. A lot of what we experience is emotional deregulation and not having that switch that we can flip to automatically regulate ourselves. It's a skill we have to learn. And so being able to, come into a community, come into a group, your nervous system calms in safe company. We've all got those kind of safe people or those friends that we're around, and we automatically just feel a little bit of a breath of fresh air. We can also borrow regulation and structure from the group. If we're feeling dysregulated, we can come into the group and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Anybody have any ideas? Oh, girl, that was me yesterday. I totally feel you. I don't know if this will work for you, but this is what I tried, right? Those kind of things are huge, not to mention the structure. A lot of groups have some kind of structure, whether it's a live call you can join, whether it's body doubling, whether it's, all of these different things. Borrow that structure. I don't have anything going on this week. I'm, whatever. I'm off work and unregulated time and feeling restless, but I know I've got that body doubling call at 2 p.m. So I can structure my day at least a little bit by that. And realizing that these tiny but powerful moments of just showing up helps to build your momentum. If all of that makes sense. I've got notes in front of me as well, Owen. So I've got a couple of other things that we can dive into as far as perspective and pattern spotting. You hear someone else tell a story and you think, oh my gosh, that's me. That they were just inside my head. That's my story. How'd you know that? So it helps you, again, gain a little bit of that I am not alone perspective, but it also helps you say, oh my gosh, that's what that was, and spot some of those patterns. So you learn faster by hearing others coached as well. Sometimes if you're being coached, it's a little bit direct, it's a little bit harsh. It's great. It's amazing. One-on-one is still one of my favorite spaces to be in. But if you can just kind of sit back and hear somebody else and then put the puzzle pieces together for you, it's almost kind of like it becomes your idea. And you're like, oh, I can grab onto that. Versus feeling like, quote unquote, attacked. Like, oh, you called me out. You can see it from somebody else's perspective. And group situations really offer accountability that feels kind and not punishing. Accountability can be a 4-letter word for a lot of people. So it offers a bit of that external structure, and then it allows for internal follow through. So you're less likely to disappear into avoidance when you feel connected. Or when somebody else is, hey, Owen, haven't seen you in a bit. You good? That will keep you more connected than if you're just doing it by yourself. It's kind of like, going to a yoga class at a studio versus doing it in your living room. Both are great. However, if you've signed up for the class, you've paid for it, you've got friends there, you're just more likely to go. So the important nuance here is that group work is complementary to therapy. So it's not necessarily trauma processing. It is more about skills, awareness, identity, and support. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. I think there's some beautiful union when you've been able to do that sort of deep work where you're feeling seen, heard, and understood in that one-to-one space, and to really come deeply into what shame's holding you back, things like that. It's really powerful work. But what the group then gives you is this sense of another way of working through shame is to see there's this whole other group of people that experience that same thing. Like, oh, maybe I shouldn't feel so silly with all of this. And even though this group over here in my life doesn't quite get it, these guys and these girls kind of understand why this is unfolding, that it's okay, which you can get one-to-one, but there is some kind of crazy, awesome power in seeing a load of people going, yeah, totally. And it's like, oh my God. And there's some sort of parasympathetic joy there. I have to say, it's very specialism when people say that.
Yep, I would 100% agree. And it also goes back to, and this is what so much of my work circles back to, change sticks more easily when you don't feel like you're doing it alone, right? If you don't feel like you're on that island building that hut by yourself, things just stick a bit better. And that's what we're wanting. We're not trying to eradicate our ADHD or autism or any of that. We're not trying to get rid of it. That's not the point. It's not possible. We're just trying to reduce it and make the impact less, if that makes sense.
It does. I was thinking about this the other day, is that, when you're, because pretty much all of last year, if I'd met all of you amazing human beings, I've got all these friends, we're launching 2 new shows with friends that I've made through this who are now co-hosts, and it's going to be so beautiful. I'm so blessed to have met all of these people, which has allowed me to process my whole diagnosis over the course of a year. So I've had no therapy or coaching necessary, other than I did all my coaching training. So I was surrounded by people going on the journey of learning. So we all healed together as we became coaches. But other than that, the rest of the year, how do I deal with things that are coming up, emotions, and how I feel about myself? If I've got no one to talk to, it's all upstairs. It's all in the brain. You're having to constantly think and reflect. Okay, I did this. It's okay. You got it. So there's lots of this internal chatter and dialogue. I'm not sure how helpful that is over time, because you're not able to process the dialogue outside of yourself, come into your body, notice the sensations. These are skills that you're doing each day. You're having to basically think your way through your life, because there is no outlet to ask what people think or to see if they understand where you're coming from. So in some of the groups I've done, like men's groups that I was in before all of this, very powerful, because we will go off and say, I'm going to do this week. Come back, guys, I like really struggle to do it. And then people can see it in your face, in your eyes. They can see that you're not connecting to it. They're like, brother, I can see this doesn't seem to sit right, does it? And I'm like, no. You need people to see you saying your stuff out loud and watching it and go, oh, it's interesting, because as you said that, your body language was saying something else. So it's amazing, isn't it, what people can spot in a nice, compassionate way when you're talking.
It is. And it's a great, a lot of these communities, hopefully, are very safe spaces. And so they're sounding boards. Hey, I'm really struggling to brush my teeth. Right? That's something that I hear quite often, and it's really shameful for people. And then you say it in this group, you're really vulnerable, and then you get 7 other people that are like, yep. And you're like, oh my God, I'm not the only one that does this. And so that kind of validation it's life-changing, in my opinion.
Yeah, because part of that question we sort of blended into it is about, how feeling seen by our peers can help us and allow us to lift that shame. Because it's also something you might want to do, but you feel like, oh, I feel a bit silly. And if I go out and do that, and then people are like cheerleaders for you. They're like, no, you got this, you're amazing. Look at everything you've done up to this point. And you can definitely, it's just something about that cheerleading aspect too, of people being behind you and pushing you forward, which, as cheesy as it is, it's actually a big part of the human dynamic, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, I think it gives people a better understanding of what's going on, especially when they can say something out loud. And then me or whoever's in the group can be like, oh yeah, it could be because of this, or have you tried this, or this is what this looks like for me. So you get that feedback without the, oh, really? That you might get from, family or friends or whatever. And so yeah, I mean, this being seen by your peers 100% helps lift shame. Shame thrives in secrecy and in isolation.
Yeah, and it's
so when you go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just before I forget about the mask aspect is, so much shame is hidden under that mask, and we're out in the world masking because we want to be seen in a certain way. But again, being in these groups and feeling seen means you can, as cheesy as the word is, unmask. And there's an insane amount of emotional power there. It's very emotional. The few times I've done it afterwards, you have a little sob because, oh, bloody hell, like for the first time I was able just to unmask for a moment. And that's a skill that you can build up hopefully out in the neurotypical world. But sometimes it's hard to even do it that till your dying day. It still may be a really tricky thing to do in a neurotypical, they don't get you thing. But to have somewhere you could always go, take that mask off and do a little bit of healing each time is kind of like this a skill that sort of develops without it being obviously happening.
Yeah, definitely. It's like going to the gym. I tell people this all the time. It's like going to the gym and lifting weights. You don't see the muscle that you're gaining day to day going to the gym. But you look back, 3, 6, 12 months later, and you can see a massive difference by those little daily unmaskings that you've done. Whatever that looks like, whether that's in a group setting, whether that is kind of you get home and you do some stimming and, that kind of thing, and allow yourself to unmask in safe ways, in small increments or in big increments, depending on what that looks like. You really can build up that muscle for sure. And when we're seen with empathy from others and understanding and not having to constantly explain ourselves, your nervous system, like you said, parasympathetic, your nervous system relaxes. Hearing people say, yeah, like same, it interrupts the narrative of I'm the problem. There's something wrong with me. We move from what's wrong with me to, okay, this is my brain and my nervous system. And then that shift unlocks self-compassion, motivation, willingness to try again, determination, self-trust. So many things are unlocked there. And again, it's not like, the switch is flipped and all of this just illuminates at once, but bit by bit, you do start having more of that self-compassion, that self-trust, that willingness to try again, determination, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, progress, in my opinion, progress happens way faster when we stop beating ourselves up and start feeling like we actually belong somewhere. It's really powerful.
Yeah, like I said, that men's group I was in it was amazing. And it's kind of, well, I really noticed, me and some of the people in the group, is this sort of, when you first show up, you're a bit, like you're nervous. Oh God, this is like really cringe. And like, well, am I being too quiet? Oh my God, they're doing it. They're going around the circle and they're going to come to me in a minute. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that the people listening going, yeah, what you're saying is all well and good, but like, I just get so nervous and I'm so shy and all of that. But I think the good thing about, well, hopefully a decent group will allow you it's okay to sit in the shadows just briefly and just get a vibe, get into it, see what people are saying, sort of literally sort of connecting with a few people on what they're saying. And I'm sure any good coach or therapist in these groups, say that's a great way to start. And everyone in the group, if they're all like, yeah, don't worry, you don't need to say anything for the first few weeks, and everyone says that to you, you're like, oh my God, amazing. So there's something to be said about the kind of environment you're in, right? So you can be shy and reserved and quiet to begin with. I think that's really important to acknowledge, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I've run a couple of men's small groups myself, and they're just so beautiful. I think that women lean more towards vulnerability just for, a myriad of reasons. Whereas men are, again, this is all generalizations, so don't come at me. But men are typically a bit more, quiet with their emotions. They tend to be a little bit less vulnerable. And I definitely saw that. So I've run, probably close to 20 women's groups now, and then just a handful of the men's groups. The men's group started later. And you can just very much tell a difference, especially in those first one or two calls. Like the women are very like, yep, this is who I am. Even the shy ones. Yep, this is who I am. Even if they keep their camera off or whatever, they're a bit more chatty. And the guys tend to be a little bit more like, hey, yep, I'm here. So those are always really interesting as a coach, those first few with the men's groups, of kind of how you approach the different groups. But then by the end of it, the guys are, crying. The guys are really open. Everybody's using the text, sending stories, asking for advice. And it's such a beautiful space once people realize, oh, okay, I can be safe here. I can be myself here. I can unmask here.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you're learning as you watch other people figure out their way of breaking out of whatever it is, the masking or being shy or quiet or not wanting to share their emotions. You get to watch it. I think there's something in that too, is just being able to see it live. If you're just sitting there for the first few, and I go, oh, I think the way they did it, that I think I could do that. But you wouldn't have known that if you were, say, working in one-to-one scenarios and things like that. So this, like you said earlier about, you can sort of do some mirroring and watch the way people deliver lines or their body language or things like that, or finding different ways to get your voice out that you hadn't thought of before by just sitting back and seeing it unfold in front of you, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think it gives you this kind of unspoken permission. Oh, well, if he can do it, I can probably do it too. Or if they can show up that way, maybe I could, raise my hand to be coached or whatever it is. So I do think, like you said, just seeing other people do things in a way gives us permission to, whatever it is, advocate for ourselves or ask the question or say the thing or whatever it is. And permission, quote unquote, I'm using air quotes here, permission in that way is huge.
Yeah.
It certainly
is. And it's just we cover so many ways that you can interact with these spaces. I think that's kind of the point. If it's very, very rigid, maybe that's something to look at when you're looking at all different group options that you have. Is it, if you need something that's much more structured and much more rigid in that way, that's cool. Or maybe you want something that's really loose and light and maybe even fun. I don't know. They all look a little bit different, but you have to do your research, unfortunately. That's part of the journey. But normally it's, someone who knows someone who went to something. And that's normally how it unfolds.
Exactly.
So, as I grow this community, I want to team up with people like yourself where I can send people to loads of different versions of groups and, just be a signpost there. But as we move into our next question, we're looking at kind of like when we notice that we need solitude, and then sometimes other people can be helpful. When it comes to neurodivergence, especially with those who are ADHD or autistic, and it happens with a lot of ADHD too, especially for myself, I need quite a lot of my own time. I need lots of quiet time by myself to to do my special interests and to just have this low sensory time as well, and to get out my brain with some distractionary stuff if I need to as well. So knowing when we need the solitude, and knowing that actually maybe too much of that solitude will really hold us back and really cause us to our ND's presentations to get worse, even because we are so isolated that we've lost the ability to be around people full stop. So it's knowing how to work with that. So as someone that works with sort of neurodivergent people in groups, is that being something you've thought about really, is knowing when people, how much is too much, how little? I guess it's not all your responsibility, but it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is a bit tricky. And I think, while that's, not all my responsibility, it is something that I see in people. And then, myself being an ADHDer, that is something that I have witnessed. And just like with, 90% of this work, it really starts with the self-awareness. So paying attention to, you probably kind of know if you lean more extroverted or more introverted, but what those triggers are for you, how that shows up for you, how that impacts you. Right. And others, because others are, a part of it as well. So looking at maybe some signs that you need community, if you're stuck in rumination or avoidance loops, you can't get started, even though you really want to, you're just kind of in that stuck moment. You feel disconnected or, behind everyone else, quote unquote. You're overwhelmed or underwhelmed, craving that external kind of structure. So those could be signs that community, or at least a dip your toe in, could be helpful. And then on the other side of that, the signs of solitude might be, what might support you there. If you're feeling like sensory and emotionally overloaded, that's probably not a great time to, meet up with friends at a bar. If you're already feeling emotionally overloaded, sensory overloaded, and then you go to a place with loud noises and bright lights and strange smells and, all of that kind of stuff. So kind of pay attention to that. If you already have like a bit of a social hangover, or you can kind of feel nervous system fatigue, you might need some alone time. If you're feeling snappy and shut down or kind of, flooded, maybe some alone time is the way to go. Yeah. A lot of us need solo time to decompress. And that can get tricky because some of us still have a really hard time being alone with ourselves, alone with our thoughts. That can be a really scary place for some people. So figuring out, what does that look like? Is it going on a walk by yourself, but listening to some music, reading a book, listening to a podcast? Not to plug this one or anything, but you know what I mean? So trying to find solo activities for yourself, and also paying attention to what feels good for you when you are regulated. That is so important. When we're regulated, we're like, nothing matters. All is good. Doesn't matter. I feel great. But really paying attention to what feels good for me when I'm in this state, so that I know what to pull from, or, pull to me when I'm feeling dysregulated.
Yeah, I love that. And I think self-awareness is, such a obvious, huge part of all this. That's part of the journey. I think as soon as you're diagnosed, you're then going really on this big journey of sort of figuring out who you are again. We covered all of this in the first 60 episodes, but it is important to acknowledge that will develop over time, and you learn a little bit more about yourself, and you have these light bulb moments. I'm sure a lot of NDers know that, every few days my partner would say, I've just had a realization. And you sort of start unpack everything. So over time, I love people, but if I'm around someone for more than 4 or 5 hours, I get completely overstimulated. I can feel my nervous. I start saying not weird stuff. I can't string sentences together, but I also make weird noises and do like weird impressions. And that's how I know to my partner, I think I need to go have some quiet time, because I've lost all ability
and that's kind of what I was saying, like, know your It's not a trigger, but know kind of, the word I use are cues. Know your cues. Oh, I've started to kind of, whatever it is for you, make these weird noises or go off on these tangents or do impersonations. That's a cue for me to pay attention to and not to override. That's a cue that I might need a minute. And those are really important to pay attention to. Excuse me. Even if it's in hindsight, even if looking back and being like, what happened? What was that? Oh, that was my nervous system telling me I needed a minute. Okay, cool. Next time I'll know when I start making impersonations to at least just check myself and say, wait, am I overstimulated or am I actually just being really funny or both? Right? Like asking yourself some of these questions, as far as being solo time. Am I isolating or am I restoring? Do I feel more grounded after being alone or more stuck? These kind of questions can kind of help you realize, okay, what do I need in this moment? And keeping in mind that what you need might be different than what you want, right? You might want to be out and about, but you might need some alone time. You might want some alone time, but meeting a friend for a quiet walk would do you a world of good.
So I like that. Cues. That's good. Yeah, because triggers can have a bit of baggage for some people in the language sphere.
And I think triggers are different. I really do genuinely think if you like you said, start making impressions, that's not necessarily a trigger. You've been triggered to make the impressions. It's the cue that you have to catch. Like, or maybe even not even a red flag, but just a flag. Oh, something's come up and I need to pay attention to it.
And you kind of know the trigger's coming as well, because if you're starting to do that and you're aware that's what your nervous system, that's where you're at in this moment in time, that's your regulated state in this moment, you know that there's probably, in inverted commas, the trigger is coming, which could be a lot more, like I get very irritated after a while. So it starts with those things I just said. Then it becomes irritation. So something falls on the floor and you're like, oh, gravity, whatever. It's so irritating. And then you're like, right, this is the next big cue here, that this could lead to an outburst, which you really don't want, because your value is to be kind and lovely and compassionate. So it's gaining these skills. And I think going back to what we're talking about today is you can do that certainly one-to-one, very, very powerful work. You could do that in groups, learn about yourself through watching others. So as we said, there's a place for both. But I think what I like about groups on the sort of self-development journey is that I don't know about you, do you feel like that maybe there's a more lengthy journey that you can expect in a good way? So you do one-to-one for a certain amount of time, and the idea is you don't want to be seeing a therapist for years on end. You've learned the skills and they send you on your way and you've graduated and all that good stuff. But for me, what I've enjoyed about groups over the years is that I can be in for the long term, not because that whole time I'm desperately going to need it, but because it's such a beautiful thing that I can connect to and process my stuff and unpack every week, that in the long term, it's something very, very special. I think that's for me the big thing I take as a huge benefit. What are your thoughts there, that it can be this beautiful long-term thing without it being because I need it? It's because I love it and I want it, I suppose.
I want it. It's a want. Yeah, definitely. I think that can overlap. You want it and you need it and you need it and you want it, depending on where you are in your journey. And this journey is not linear, right? So you might have been diagnosed for 10 years, doing quite well, thriving, and then a couple of bumps in the road and you need a little bit more support. Sweet. I can go to my community for this. I think it's also about the connection. You are connected to this group it's just like having, I don't know, like Harry Potter fan club that you're part of or whatever it is. There's a connection because you all like the same thing, or, a chess club because you all like the same hobby. An ADHD or a neurodivergent group because you all have this thing in common. So you can pop in and talk about different things and connect on different levels. It's the connection that I think is so important. And that is lifelong. Connection is a human need for your entire life, from the moment you're born until the end. And that is what these groups can really provide. And then you really build relationships with people that you never knew before. And now you're meeting up for coffee with this once a stranger, that kind of thing. So it can be really beautiful places. You can spot your patterns a lot faster and then kind of work with those. What does that look like? How am I working with this? So other people reflect your blind spots back to you gently, hopefully. Hopefully it's gently. You have this shared language, and that means you've got shared learning. These kinds of self-development, group programs, communities, whatever you want to call them, they also have built-in momentum, regular touch points. And especially for that keeps ADHD brains engaged, to know that you've got these regular touch points. Again, kind of back to that accountability word. You don't have to self-generate momentum and motivation every day, every week. Again, you can kind of outsource that and rely on your buddies, your community. It also allows for over the long term, because again, this is a process of some identity shifting. You stop seeing yourself as like the one who can't get it together, at least hopefully, and you become someone who shows up. You become someone who experiments, someone who grows, someone who, like I said, is more confident, trusts themselves more, is better at making decisions. All of this is part of that elongated process. And there's a resilience that I think we gain within a community. So one person struggles and the group holds them. I just had this the other day in my group. One of the girls reached out in the WhatsApp group and she was like, I've had a terrible day. This happened with my boss, and then this happened. It was a wild experience. And within 30 seconds, she had 3 responses. Oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. What about this? Could we, blah, 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 blah. Do you want advice or do you just want to vent? That kind of stuff. So one person was struggling and the group rushed to hold space for her. And then the same thing, one person wins and everybody gets a dopamine hit. So she messaged yesterday to say, hey guys, thanks a lot for the support. Today was actually a lot better. I had the conversation I needed to have and I'm feeling great. And everybody was, well done, way to go. We're so proud of you, all of that kind of stuff. So that kind of resilience is huge and not something that you can easily cultivate in a solo experience. It can still be cultivated in one-to-one. I love cheering people on and being that cheerleader, but it hits different when you've got 6 people being like, you got this. Well done.
Yeah, so powerful. And it's kind of like, if you want to be self-compassionate, sometimes being part of a community where you get to give compassion a go for others, you start to learn how would you reverse that back. So there's something about doing what you want to come back as well to a certain point. And I think, exactly. Talking about like the self-development journey, if you're doing, say, a course or program with other people, is interpretation too. So how each person interprets information that's being given, has been read out, maybe it's a webinar thing, they're absorbing it in a different way, and then people get a chance to share their thoughts on whatever that was. That's what happened in my training. And that's really powerful because you get all these different interpretations of it. Oh, that's interesting. They saw it that way. I could see how that could come up in session, actually. And then suddenly you're knowing how you can help your clients. So I think interpretation and seeing other people's view on the world can allow you to fine tune what yours looks like. And that brings that sense of authenticity, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point. It's one of my favorite things about group and community coaching is that you're not only getting my lived experience and my expertise as a one-on-one coach, you're getting her lived experience, his lived experience, their lived experience. Like you're getting so many different perspectives from so many different walks of life. Some of it might not resonate, but I guarantee you there will be pieces from every single person that contributes that you can be like, yeah, I could see that. Oh, that could maybe work for me. Oh, that's a great idea. And it's things that I never would have thought of, things that I've never tried, things that I'm still learning that other people have expertise in. And so that's one of the other massive benefits of group coaching is that you get to learn and help educate others within the community.
There's so much that kind of that dynamic can offer you. And I think until you just have to give it a go, really. You need to just try a group out, try different groups out, see how it feels, look in the shadows to begin with, absolutely fine. But you'll find as the time goes on, everybody's, if there's been you for a while and no one new was coming recently, you start to really see everybody come out of their shell. And it's a very, very gorgeous thing to witness as well. It's very life affirming, I guess, and gives us a sense of everything's going to be okay as well. It does offer that. Is there anything that we've missed from any of your notes before we sort of wrap up the show with the two key questions that we always finish with? Or do you feel like we've covered most?
Yeah, I feel like that we've covered a lot. I feel good about it. How do you feel? Anything else that you want to throw out there?
No, yeah, I think that's a really nice way to do it. And I think for me, in a world which is clicky in all the worst ways, people find their people, but in that dark way, there's something to be said for finding your people in the most gorgeous, beautiful way, where your people as a group, as a community, are still so lovely to everybody else on the planet. If you see what I mean. So this isn't about politics. This is about finding your people, like you said, the Harry Potter Appreciation Club, or your guys you go and play football with, and you go to the pub and you talk a bit about your feelings, mostly about the football. They're your people. There's gamers who have the gaming community. And with this, you have your ND community. They are your people. They get you. And it doesn't mean that everyone has to get you, and you will have to go into the world and adjust to all the different kinds of people who come into your life. But there is something about finding your people in the most positive and amazing way. And I think if I was going to wrap up all of this, it's when you find it, like I found with all of you guys, it's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's amazing, and it's heartwarming. So, what are your thoughts there about, like you said, we find your tribe, find your people, and it's going to give you at least 50% more chance of blossoming as who you truly are.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, we've talked about finding those people that make you feel like home, make you feel not so weird. And, whether it is your football buddies or whether it's your chess club or whatever it is, finding people that share interests and are genuinely curious over judgmental and can kind of help get you back on track when you feel like you have faltered. It's indispensable. It's so important to be able to have those people. And the only way that you can find those is, like you said, giving some of these things a try, trying out some stuff, seeing if it works for you. I heard for the longest time from people like, I don't know, group stuff just makes me really nervous, kind of like what you were saying. And I had to tell every single one of them, look, I have run so many of these small groups and I have never had anybody at any point be like, I wish I didn't do this. It's at the end, they come back and say, I'm so glad I did this. And that is not me tooting my own horn. That is me tooting the horn of community and group and what that feels like to feel like you have found your people.
Certainly, and everybody in that group already wants to be there. They wouldn't be there otherwise. So it's not like you'll come into some toxic environment where it was like, like in a workplace where people kind of work there, but they kind of hate it and everyone's complaining all the time. I work in that environment and it can be really, really hard on my energy. It really zaps me because they share it with me. And I'm like, I don't need this for my nervous system. But that's a workplace. This is totally different. People want to be there and there's something special about that energy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. There is. It's really special.
Amazing stuff. I love this. It's so good. And what a way to kick off this new year. So I encourage people to do their research, look at what you're doing as well with your groups, because they sound absolutely amazing. And just maybe take a friend. Maybe you've got a friend of yours that's like, I'll come along. You're like really extroverted friend of yours that's cool to come. So there's that as well, which is great. So this has been absolutely amazing. And as always, nothing's changed here, guys. We're always going to finish with our really positive little moments here towards the end. The whole show's been positive, but this is our nice, lovely, gorgeous, little cheesy way to finish up. I don't think I asked you this last time, because there's two questions now. So I'm going to say I don't think you did it, so let's go for it. So I'm going to ask every guest, what key moment or achievement are you most proud of despite your neurodivergence potentially holding you back? So I'm not saying it is, but potentially could have, that you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that. Considering, do you have anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple of things. Like, obviously, I am here in a coaching capacity, and this is what I do for my work, and I love it. And that has been a huge accomplishment. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I would build my own business, I would have laughed in your face 100%. I mean, like, you have lost your mind. So building a coaching business from lived experience is wild and the honor of my life. And that does not mean that it has not come with struggles and ups and downs and all of that, but being able to create something where, programs and resources that genuinely help people feel less alone is, like I said, a dream. Hosting groups where people say, like I said, this is the first time I've ever felt understood. Insane. And I'm so proud that I have not let kind of my raging ADHD, scattered task initiation, disorganization, emotional regulation get in the way of taking steps forward. And again, that does not mean that there have not been steps back, because there certainly have, and there will continue to be that. I'm human, but that I haven't burnt it all to the ground is a big accomplishment. And yeah, just continuing to grow and, like I said, iterate instead of quitting when things felt really overwhelming, and things have felt really overwhelming at times. So, none of those things happened because my life was tidy or linear. They happened because I kept coming back to curiosity, self-compassion, and tiny steps forward with, also the in-betweens. And then, what I was going to say is I'm here in a coaching capacity, but I'm really proud of the relationship that I have built with my partner, with communication and being able to be fully myself and not masking, and, full vulnerability and all of that. That took a lot of work for my ADHD anxious attachment self. And I'm really proud of what we have done there, because that was definitely a team effort.
Yeah, thanks so much. And I think that's so true. I think everybody I've asked this, the last 20 odd people, it's this combination of like the professional side, certainly, and education as well, getting degrees, things like that. But so many people have said about that relationship aspect is being able to be in your authentic self, not get freak the hell out, and just being able to just, I guess, find somebody actually that's actually really open as well, and picking. So we tend to sort of get drawn to other NDers, don't we? Friendships, relationships, things like that. So does that work? Does it not work? That's for another day to decide. I think it can work both ways.
Yeah.
Sometimes people want a neurotypical that just gets shit done and doesn't have any of that stuff,
Yes.
and is able to hold you accountable in the most beautiful way. But sometimes we do need people that, like, yeah, I get that too. Let's team up and take on the world. So it kind of works both ways, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, so beautiful.
Definitely.
So,
yeah,
your parting message of joy. We've done this before. I'm not going to go back and check to see if you're going to say the same thing. But in January 2026, what would be your parting message, your speech to the listeners about how we can thrive despite being ND and everything else that we come into this world with? What is your message of hope that we're awesome and all is going to be fine?
Yeah, I think I do somewhat remember what my message was last time, and I think that I still stand by that. And it is that there is hope for change. You have more control than you have been led to believe, whether by yourself or by others. You are not broken. There is nothing to fix. I equate ADHD brains to, I might have said this in that first episode that I was on, I equate ADHD brains to a manual car versus an automatic car. So an automatic car, you get in, you start, you put it in drive, and you go. A manual car, you've got to figure out where's the clutch, where's the brake, where's reverse, where's first gear, how do I find that bite point, and how do I not, kill the clutch, all of that. You do not take a manual car to get fixed, because it doesn't run like an automatic car. You figure out what the gears are, how to put it into first, how to put it into second, when you need to come out of sixth and go back into second, all of that. And that is how our brains operate. And I just really want people to take that message of you're exactly where you need to be. You're not behind, even if it feels that way. A lot of us have spent years thinking that we're the problem, that if we could just be more disciplined or more motivated or get our act together, everything would finally fall into place. But I believe that the truth is most of us have been trying to navigate life with a brain that was never designed for the systems that were handed to us. And coming to that understanding, and, whether it's through coaching or whether it's through, your own thing, one-on-one, coming into a community, there is support out there, and you do not have to do it alone.
Yeah, thank you so much. And yeah, I love that analogy with the manual automatic. Thank you. I love stuff like that, and just other ways to explain things to people who are asking me, what's ND all about then? And sometimes you need different language for each person, don't you? Because they can't quite process it. But when I tell them, hey, look, think about it as your mind and your brain, your body, your nervous system's kind of just doing its own thing, running wild, and it actually needs you to tend to it quite a bit, and that can be quite exhausting. And then people kind of get what you're saying then. It's like, imagine you could get anxiety at any moment. It's not. It's kind of sympathetic charge. And they're like, oh my God, that must be horrible. I'm like, yeah, well, that's my day. I have to keep tending back to my body. Tend. And sometimes you don't want to have to tend. You just want to have a nice bloody day where you can do what you want.
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes back to like thriving for me, and what I talk to my people about isn't some like perfect version of life where we never struggle again and everything is rainbows and butterflies. It's learning how to be kinder to ourselves when we do, drop the ball. It's surrounding ourselves with people who get it. It's trusting that growth can still happen in small, wobbly steps, even on days when we feel like a hot mess dumpster fire. So, if you're feeling tired and you're feeling discouraged, you're not broken. You're not too late. You belong here with the rest of us. Figuring it out as we go.
I love that. I could keep talking to you, but I'm going to stop. So I'll leave it there. But I just want to thank you so much. Like I said, it'd be based on how this whole episode started, it'd be lush to have you back on to talk about the work you're going to be doing this year with businesses, because I think that a lot of people are struggling with that, and we'd love to hear what we think. So we'll definitely get all that booked in. So where can we find you online? Where do you hang out? Where's your spot?
Yeah, so you will find me mostly on Instagram. It's at adhd.coach.leah. I'm not a social media girly. I try to be. I desperately want to be. And I'm just not. But I'm there. And if you come and you follow me, and I do put out, some pretty good stuff when I'm feeling momentum and I, get a streak. So follow me over there, reach out, please DM me. You can go to my website, leahccoaching.com. Like I said, I offer one-on-one coaching. You can find me over at School, is where I host my community. My community is the ADHD Academy Collective. We have 15 body doubling sessions a week, 3 times a day, Monday through Friday. We have Get Your Shit Together Sunday calls, which is just a quick 30-minute call every Sunday evening to plan out our weeks, take a look at our calendars, set ourselves up for some success, whatever that means for you. 2 times a month, live coaching calls, community support within WhatsApp, all of that kind of stuff. So you can do a 7-day free trial of that. And then if that works for you, it is £33 a month for everything I just listed. So it's a really great place to be.
Mesa, that's absolutely incredible offering for such an affordable price too. So thank you for all the work that you're doing for the ending free. All the work. I'm so branded now; it just comes out of my mouth. Thank you for all the work you're doing for the ND community and the Ending Free community. And I'm just so grateful on behalf of, I'm sure everybody that's graced those groups. So I just want to thank you so much for being on the show and kicking off this year in beautiful style.
Thank you so much for having me. I'll come back anytime.
Amazing. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, everybody, for listening at home. I hope you really enjoyed that today. Show's not that different, is it, guys, really? I've just tweaked it a little bit, but I just want to thank you all for your support last year. I mean, what a journey it's been. And as we shift into becoming this advocacy brand, this mission-led brand, this worldwide mission to tell the world that you can be ND and free. So check out all the previous episodes. There's a brand new wellbeing show coming. There's two. I've got a panel with Alice and Philippa, and then a male panel with Dan and with Dan and Darren. So check out for those. Fun. There's even quizzes at the end. There's going to be some real fun at the end of those. So how can you help us? Just quickly, stick around. There's like a little reel of sort of mini adverts. So these are going to be a combination of tools that can help you in your daily life. Companies I partner with. You can find out more about our Patreon page and how you can help over there. You can find out about our merchandise, how you can wear awesome hoodies. We go into the world with your hoodie saying, I am Indian free, and telling the world that you're good enough to be in this beautiful thing we call life. So go and stick around for that. See what we got coming up. I want to thank you so much for supporting the show, and we will see you all next time when we have more chat in and around neurodivergence. Hey everyone, and thank you so much for listening. And here's your chance to find out more about what Ending Free is doing and how you may be able to support. This whole thing doesn't really function without all of you, really, the listeners, followers on social media, our patrons. The idea is that we all come together as the social movement to raise awareness to all the NDers across the world about being free of shame, being free from the burden of trying to fit in, and also free from the burnout caused by not honouring our needs. We do it together by raising awareness of the ND free mission. There's other ways you can help us as well do that and be part of this community. And it's not just you helping us in the shadows, it's a chance for you to be a voice on all of this, to be a face of this movement. I think there's some real value in us taking part and offering in that allows us to sort of kind of in some ways heal ourselves from all of the times we've been told we're not good enough. And this is a way for us to stand in our power. And a good way to help us is to get involved in some of the things that we're doing. So if you head over to, in the show notes, you'll see a Linktree address for Ending Free, and on there you've got all the links you would need for doing this. So go and check that out. If you don't want to listen to this, head over to Linktree, and then you can just have an explore for yourself. So some of the key things is you can join our Patreon page, which is our community in a safe place away from social media channels and platforms. So on there essentially is where you go to offer up questions, to have a discussion on our podcast wellbeing shows, send us your experiences that we can read out and discuss. So basically anything that you want to say in and around neurodivergence, me and our panel will, or two sets of panels, will talk through what you bring up. That's where you would go to have us read out your questions and things. So head over there for that. And on there also we will have the latest news and what's happening, but also a chance for you to engage in our weekly topic. So we'll bring up a topic and we all share how we help ourselves. Very positive space. It's not a support group. It's not a coaching program or anything like that. It's us all helping each other to find a way through traditional ND presentations. So we're all kind of coaching each other in a way, rather than it being somewhere that we vent. And it's how hard is everything. It's also about really important that we are putting the right foot forward and all helping each other to get better, which is amazing. It's called completely free. Doesn't cost anything. It to be accessible, but there are 2 membership options if you wanted to, which are like monthly donation memberships. So it's a donation rather than a subscription. You get all this stuff. You're donating because you believe in what we're doing. So there's a £3 one and an £8 one. And the main benefit from those is that we'll do a big shout out for you on our podcast and shout out on social media for the £8 option. So it's just if you believe in what we're doing in that onto that level and you want to push the movement forward. Basically, time creates money. And do this all by myself. It's a lot of work, but I want it to grow. But to do that, we need to create funds, raise money, so I have more time to do more podcasts and to put more content and to come up with new ideas, workshops, groups, whatever it may be in the future. I can't do that while I'm pretty much, working full time and not the best paid job in the world. So having to do lots of overtime. So I just don't really have much time. And with your help, we can put money into this business and into this social movement, make a real change. So only if you can. It's absolutely zero pressure there. Another way to help us is on our Shopify shop. So it's the ND and Free store. It's available on Shopify if you search ND and Free, or on the plugin app payment service shop, which it's just called Shop. And you go on there and you'll find it there. So there you can buy hoodies, you can buy t-shirts, you can buy mugs, you can buy tote bags. And the idea of that is because it's got the ND and Free logo on it, the statement. It's like you're going into the world saying, I'm neurodivergent, I am free of the burnout, free of the shame, free of the burden. So it's a way of standing in your power, but also raising awareness of the brand. It's perfect. So the people are, oh, what's that? They come listen to the show, and then we get a new member of our community. So yeah, go check that out. It's all done via Shopify through a third party. So it's all done for me, thank God. So it all gets printed and sent to you. So go and check that out. Be so grateful. The profit made from it is put back into ND and Free, which is amazing. Another way to help us is visiting chillzones.co.uk. So this is a fidget tool based website. Amazing team over there. So a lot of their stuff is based on magnets. So chill balls and boulders, which are like, they've got rubber outside and they're magnets, and you can flick them and roll them, and obviously the magnets sit together. They're so amazing. I use them all the time. I've got 4 next to me here, 4 packs of them. Me and my family love them. So like magnet fidgets. And they do other fidget toys as well. Best of all, if you use my code Owen15 at checkout, so that's Owen15 at checkout, you can get 15% off, which is great. And obviously then I get a commission, and we can put that into ND and Free. So you're really helping out there as well. And another way to support us is through Ankway mushroom gummies. So these are 10 functional mushrooms all put into a gummy that looks a little bit like a wine gum. It's really tasty. And they're always improving the ingredients, and they've just got rid of all the palm oil that's in them. So that's gone now, and they keep increasing and making these gummies really tasty. And what's really good is they can be really helpful for the neurodivergent brain, because these functional mushrooms really help with that, but also with digestion and immune system. I've been working with them for about 9 months, and they're brilliant. I take them every day, and they have generally really helped me, especially with my emotional regulation and mood. It seems to have settled some of my systems down. Doesn't work for everybody, but it's working for pretty much everybody I've spoken to that use them. So that's anchorway.com, and you can check that out on our Linktree as well. And if you follow the link on our Linktree page, you'll get 15% off your order on there as well. And again, commission comes in, and we put that back into ND and Free. So there's the 2 companies that you could check out, and I look to partner with lots of other companies in the future. So this was kind of a advert / update on everything. So you'll hear this each time you listen to a show, if you want to remind yourself of what I've said. But this is mostly for new listeners. So I hope this is all helpful. Thank you so much for listening to the show. Thank you for all your support with everything that we're doing here in the community. And I cannot wait to get to know you and your voice, and being able to share that with the world. So thank you for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.